Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 26th of March 2025. These are the stories that we will decipher during the course of the show. We'll begin with the Pakistan Crypto Council that was officially launched earlier this month to integrate blockchain technology with financial landscapes. Meetings have been held since then. There's a lot of talk on how to move it forward. We've got a brilliant CEO at the helm of affairs, and we've got our finance minister also looking at things, and the power minister also putting his input as to how this whole cryptocurrency maneuvering can be done in the right manner possible. We'll be understanding different modalities of that with our eminent guests in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the growing intolerance in India and rising Hindutva. The fact is that with the passing time, there is more and more intolerance to speak out against speak out for what is right. And in fact, whenever somebody tries to do that, his voice is either muted or there is an aggressive response that comes. Media in India, when it comes to entertainment, is flourishing, but even that is being muted time and again, and we'll be citing different examples to highlight that and intolerance in India in our second segment. Then we'll be talking about the IMF that has reached a staff level agreement deal with Pakistan for around $2 billion US. Now, these $2 billion US include of course, the tranche for the 7 billion EFF facility, but there is also a new arrangement under the resilience and sustainability facility of around 1.3 billion US. That is also being provided now to Pakistan to the approval by the IMF board. This is the lineup for today. Let's begin with our show. And of course, the first segment concerns cryptocurrency. A lot of you might not understand what it is all about. Bitcoin is a word that everybody has heard of directly or indirectly. But now Pakistan is also moving towards legalizing this whole framework in the country. What are the different modalities? How important is the role of the Pakistan Crypto Council? We've been joined by two guests that will discuss that in detail. On my very right is Dr. Usman Chohan. He's an advisor on economy for CAS. Thank you very much, Usman, to have joined us. Our next guest is a very dear friend of mine as well, Syed Ehsan, Deputy Executive Director of Prime Ali. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. We'll begin with you, Usman. Pakistan's Finance Minister, Mr. Aurangzeb, highlights the Pakistan Crypto Council's role to shape the country's future in digital assets and blockchain technology. He says that this body is going to act as a central platform, will bring together regulators and industry stakeholders, and will develop a responsible and forward-looking regulatory framework for cryptocurrencies. Should we be assured?
Thank you very much for having me on your show, first of all. I think that the idea of a crypto council is a very good one. And the reason for that is that we need platforms where the regulator side and the creators and users side can have a dialogue. Whenever you have new policies, it's very important to get stakeholder input. So when you have a crypto council like this, which has your key ministries on board, it also has the developers and users from the other side, you can have a good conversation about what fits for Pakistan's needs, because every society's relationship to crypto will be different. It's not that we can replicate the United States or Japan. We have our own youth population, our own digital economy dynamics. And so if you have a dialogue on this and you can come up with a way forward about what things need to be done within larger frameworks such as FATF, you know, they have that crypto guidance, as well as the IMF and all these other factors in the background, you can probably come up with a much better solution rather than top-down impositions by regulators without stakeholder inputs, or just continuing with the people using in their private capacity in a semi-legal or gray zone. These are suboptimal outcomes. So it's much better to have a council to have this. So it's more assuring than before, yes.
All right, all right. Ali, coming to you, our finance minister also reaffirms the government's commitment to foster a transparent and future-ready financial ecosystem that he says will attract investment, that he says will empower the youth, and that he says will position Pakistan as a leader in the emerging technologies. There is also consensus in the council to carefully navigate Pakistan's approach to blockchain and cryptocurrencies to ensure economic stability while at the same time maximizing the potential of digital assets. What should be the steps to ensure that this happens in the right manner and in a manner that is stable for Pakistan's environment?
Well, I think it was rightly pointed out by my colleague that regulation is possibly the first step towards integrating these technologies into the Pakistani economy. But I'll tell you, like, we're having this conversation about 10 years too late. and whatever advantages that could have come from cryptocurrency, they're being taken advantage of. The South American countries are way ahead of us in crypto regulation and integrating and bringing crypto transactions into their society. And as far as we're concerned, the first regulator actually is the State Bank of Pakistan, which takes a direct interest in the monetary affairs of the country. And their two reactions in the past have been to ban crypto and to ban banks from indulging in crypto transactions. So we're having this conversation too late, and I'm glad that we're...
But better late than never.
yeah, I'm glad that we're having these conversations, but to say that now Pakistan will be able to take huge advantage of these measures, I think we're way past that time.
Right.
Whatever windfall was there is probably gone now.
All right, but there could be some advantage that Pakistan could gather. Or
Well, of
garner
course,
from
the primary advantage would be to bypass the conventional financial transaction system, which has its own issues.
All right. Usman, Pakistan is working on special electricity tariffs to attract crypto mining and blockchain-based data centers that aims to utilize surplus power at marginal costs and foster growth in the digital asset industry. There are different media reports that are circulating as far as that is concerned, that the power division is consulting various stakeholders to develop an attractive electricity tariff for the emerging industries without involving any subsidy, and that could help absorb surplus power and somehow reduce capacity payments. How do you view this development? For me as a layman, as far as this is concerned, there are some things that go above or beyond my understanding. For laymen like myself, would you elaborate on what this all entails?
Yes, absolutely. From a layperson's perspective, you have two issues here. One is your electricity grid and your circular debt problem, which the layperson understands is some kind of problem because you always get new surcharges in your monthly bill and it keeps rising. So that's unpleasant. The second is that you have heard about Bitcoin and you hear that Pakistan is working on. These are two layperson phenomena. What is being argued here is that close to the generation sites of power in Pakistan, coal-fired plant, etc., you create a mining architecture of servers that use that surplus electricity, because our fundamental problem is we generate too much electricity but can't get it out to the people, and then the people aren't paying enough for it. So why don't you use that? But I believe that this is not the best use. I think you have to solve your circular debt problems in the way that the government has put out a plan and not get crypto involved in this. You will never be able to compete with those countries that have natural advantages in generating electricity for practically free. For example, there are the Iguazu Falls in Paraguay, and they literally use free hydroelectric energy of the largest waterfall to generate this mining capacity, this electricity for free. In Iceland, they use the geothermal to create heating for their society while mining Bitcoin. You can't compete with these models. And keep in mind that China, which is very pragmatic about which technologies to focus on, banned crypto mining 10 years ago or 7 years ago. And the reason is because it was okay to speculate in certain kinds of investments, but to put your national resources into this generation, this mining part, is very inefficient, because what you're doing is transferring electricity to solve a large amount of random puzzles to get the hash function to get a new Bitcoin, which, because of the curve of Bitcoin, as it gets more complicated, is more and more electricity to solve a random puzzle. China believes that's not where you do it. Instead, it focuses on renewable energies, it focuses on electric vehicles, it focuses on AI. So we also have to be pragmatic about which parts of crypto we want to focus on. And I believe that the best parts are the platforms, the apps, the getting people involved, financial inclusion, those types of things are better. But if you go into the hardware, you'll never be able to compete with the world's largest waterfall or geothermal in the glaciers, right?
Ali, I'd like to extend whatever Usman said, and I'll cite examples from different countries. He mentioned China. I'd like to mention Iran, that offers subsidized electricity for mining, but frequently shuts down these operations during peak consumption periods. Kazakhstan has embraced crypto mining, but then imposed higher electricity tariffs. El Salvador, the first country to adopt Bitcoin, provides low-cost geothermal energy from volcanoes for mining as well. What model, in your point of view, should Pakistan adopt?
Well, if you talk about mining, I mean, I first of all agree that mining is not really the way to go forward. And it only proves, I think, a certain concept that maybe if the electricity tariffs were to be brought down, that we would still be able to consume all the electricity that we have, provided that we would have enough of a mining infrastructure in the country. But then, well, there's obviously the electricity factor, but there's also the capital investment factor. You have to buy computers that have high processing power and large GPUs, graphic cards. that can, take care of these calculations so that the mining can occur. So I think maybe there is a possibility to consume a lot of electricity, that extra electricity that we produce in the summers during the hydroelectric season. But really, this is not really investment. There's no productivity here. And when what my colleague was saying previously, it was easier to mine bitcoins, and it was less power intensive. But as we go forward into the thing, it becomes more and more complicated, more energy intensive. So this is probably not the way to go. And probably the way to go is maybe mobilize Pakistanis towards branding, marketing, development of NFTs, initial coin offerings, maybe get into the business of the more complicated, sophisticated businesses related to crypto industry, but it's not looking so positive. I think the government is getting excited because they're finally catching
up to the other countries.
But they should just do it, and then they should see what the effects of it are, because this is going to integrate with e-commerce policy. This is going to integrate with trade policy. They're going to be
Is it going to be a complex mechanism to integrate this with all the different policies that Pakistan has?
It should not be, but then you have two regulators here that are going to have a lot to say. One of them is the FBR, and the other one's going to be the State Bank of Pakistan. Possibly even customs might have a few things to say about trade-based money laundering. So right now, what Pakistan generally, our regulators are cautious. They don't want to be going back into the FATF grey list, and so they want to be completely compliant while adhering to all international rules and also taking advantage of these platforms. But cryptocurrency should be there in Pakistan. It's been required for a long time, and finally, when it will be here, we'll have formally business engaging into this area. We'll have formal exchanges, even though they're not going to be Pakistani-based exchanges, in my opinion. There are no advantages to operating in this environment, especially in the financial space.
All right. So that's your point of view. Yeah. The Pakistan Crypto Council has appointed an entrepreneur, Bilal bin Saqib, as the CEO, as chief advisor to the Prime Minister also, as far as this council is concerned. Whatever I've read on Bilal bin Saqib is quite positive. He has hands-down experience as far as the modalities around cryptocurrency is concerned. Is this appointment a significant step? What could Bilal bin Saqib bring to this new avenue that Pakistan is entering into?
Yes, I think that the CEO's choice is a good one, because there's two advantages that this gentleman has. Three, in fact. One is that he's young and he's very up to date on what is happening in the space. The second is that he has a technical expertise and a track record of launching ventures that are doing okay. It's quite good. And the third is that he has a network based in the West and partly in the East, where he can bring people of interest from around the world to work on stuff here. These three advantages are exactly what you would need in a CEO. You don't want somebody who's too theoretician. You don't want somebody who's too out of date. This is an optimal thing. But again, focusing on individuals in crypto has historically been a bad idea. That's why you had the FTX crisis and all that. It's not individuals, it's about building ecosystems, and this is the right guy to build an ecosystem. And the ecosystem is one where there's a dialogue between the regulators and the people. So it's kind of a passive role. So to lionize a certain individual in crypto has always been a terrible idea. He should do his job quietly, get the right people from abroad, and then we can foster that ecosystem quietly and in a sober manner.
All right. The board members, Ali, include the governor of the State Bank of Pakistan, that you said one of the people who might have, one of the organizations that might have a lot of questions to ask regarding this. Then chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Federal Law and Information Technology Secretaries as well, which will be part of this. So this means there's a kind of a diverse leadership structure as far as this council is concerned. Will it be able to ensure that regulatory oversight, financial stability, legal frameworks and technological advancements are brought together to support Pakistan's crypto ecosystem?
Well, I think what Usman said regarding Bilal bin Saqib is true, that he's a builder of ecosystems. But I think what we need to do right now is to deal with the State Bank. The State Bank has concerns, and those concerns need to be met. So I don't know if it's the right move to have Bilal bin Saqib at the helm of the council, because it is the State Bank that really needs to be convinced about what needs to be done moving forward. I think Bilal would probably have a major role to play in developing the ecosystem and bringing about that vision that helps different fragmented players come together and express the power of this sector. But I think that the government should not try to do too much too quickly either, and it should just have a fair playing field where people can go into this sector and get out of this sector when they please, and without any negative effects occurring as a result of it, such as money laundering or any terror financing. Otherwise, the council, there are similar councils for different other policies as well, and it is important that all stakeholders be brought into the conversation before a policy or rules or framework is advised. That said, I don't think many of the people who should be represented in the stakeholders are being represented, and I don't know what the government has a plan for, but at least 4 different stakeholder groups do need to be brought into the council. Some of them express great interest and great influence. Some of them do not express great influence but still have great interest in the matters, and these include smaller players like consumers. Consumer protection groups are also an expression of that. So there's a lot to be done, but I don't think the government needs to take everything upon itself. It needs to formalize the industry, and once it's formalized, whenever problems occur, they need to be dealt with, and the council structure can be a good way to do that by dealing with conflicts directly.
All right. So that is an important thing to deal with conflicts directly as well. You talked about, this crypto ecosystem. Both of you have talked about it, and this is what our finance minister has emphasized as well, and Bilal has also emphasized this as well. He says the council is not just about regulations, it's about creating this ecosystem where blockchain and digital finance can thrive. I think this is what we all are looking forward to with gaping eyes as to how this is going to happen in the next couple of weeks or couple of months. But he also talks about bringing key stakeholders that you've pointed out as well, that by bringing those stakeholders, we aim to strike a balance between progressive policy making and fostering an environment where entrepreneurs and businesses can confidently explore the potential of blockchain technology. These key stakeholders, they be brought about under a certain policy, under certain scrutiny? What should be the process?
There certainly should be a crypto policy in due course that is based on having dialogue among all the stakeholders, and we're not in a rush per se. I agree with my dear colleague that it would be nicer to have done this earlier, but there were different problems we had in the past, and since we have in a sense missed that boat, what is the rush to do this now? You see, 10 years ago or 7 years ago, we were in the FATF grey list. The FATF has guidelines for this stuff, such as the travel rule, which is a really ridiculous rule. We also had a financial pressure after 2022. All of these things, the crash of the rupee, there's a big trade-off between having crypto versus your national currency, that kind of thing. There were all of these confusions, and the US itself didn't have a clear stance on this, which is a very big and important financial player. If not directly, then through the IMF, it pressures other countries. So for example, El Salvador got into crypto, the IMF went on El Salvador's case. So there's, yes, and so they said that our funds facility and our support will be contingent on you getting rid of Bitcoin, but El Salvador stood by that because it had this idea that Trump and all these other parties, if they come to power, will chill out about this. So that chilling out is happening now, and that opens up avenues that didn't exist in the past. A track record now exists. Now if you work, you should work under a policy that has all of the stakeholders in mind, and also, as my dear colleague pointed out, the relative weights and interests of all of them. The purpose ultimately should be, the policy should be guided by broader principles, and crypto alone cannot solve those principles. For example, financial inclusion is something that is not going to happen through crypto in the way that they are professing, because having crypto out there makes life better for us. But we already have digital banking, but we already have bank accounts, we're already part of the system. In the Stone Age lives that people live in the peripheries of our society, they're not going to hop onto Ethereum. That's not going to happen. So there's broader principles to solve, and crypto should be one step towards those things.
All right. So maybe what you mean to say is that slowly and steadily we need to move in the right direction so that it moves in an environment that continues to be stable.
Absolutely.
And that is what important. Yes, sir.
I would like to add that, you know, when Usman says broader principles, I see that as maybe this council is a counterproductive way of moving forward, because I see, and in the United States, the Securities and Exchange Commission regulates this space, and the Commodities and Futures regulator regulates the space. So if we have a specialized body that is run by an entrepreneur, it might just, you know, be able to come up with a great plan for an ecosystem, and it might even come out as a policy, but then the actual regulators who know what they're trying to do with the monetary policy, who know how currency behaves and how it impacts society, if they're not brought into the conversation, or they're brought in too late, or brought in a way that they really can't address their own concerns, then they're going to put some stopgaps in front of it, and they're going to fight this kind of regulatory framework. I think the State Bank needs to take a lead, because they took a lead when we were banning crypto. So they need to take a lead in this, and they should probably be the custodians of the policy that comes forward. And this, or if not the State Bank, then the Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan.
Well, I think they're going to be part of this as well, part of the council anyways. The statement from the financial sector in Pakistan says that the next steps of the council will be to establish clear regulatory guidelines to facilitate the adoption of crypto, to engage with international crypto and blockchain organizations, to also ensure best practices, to encourage responsible innovation by working closely with the key players in the industry like fintech startups, like investors and blockchain developers, and also protect consumers and maintain financial security through robust legal and compliance frameworks. How do you implement all of that in parallel to constructing a crypto environment that could be stable or should be stable?
Yes, there's an important nuance here, which is that in a sense, the crypto ecosystem already exists, because there are probably 15 to 20 million people in Pakistan who own some crypto, but it's not a healthy ecosystem, and it's a shadow ecosystem. So the main point, basically what the statement of the financial sector that you have enunciated has checked all the right boxes.
Okay.
If you have responsible innovation, that's nice. If you have financial inclusion, all of these things are very, very important. At the same time, there are bigger dangers that are not being covered in this, because these are the natural buzzwords of this ecosystem worldwide. This is exactly what they say. But for example, let me ask it to you straight. If Pakistan has a crypto system that is thriving and is empowering its people, you don't think foreign powers are going to hack it? You don't think they're going to usurp it? It could even be...
Especially are not so friendly neighborhood.
Are not so friendly. You don't think they're going to just use computing power to revert the hash function, or the chain goes in their direction into their wallet? You don't think that's going to happen? At the same time, there can always be an inside job. Recent incursions of the state, not ours, but abroad, other states into crypto have backfired spectacularly because they're crooks on the inside. So Argentina's president Milei said, I love Libra, and then it became a sham and collapsed. Now he's probably going to get impeached. The government is going to fall because of a crypto scandal. In the United States, Trump promoted his coin, made 43 billion, then collapsed it to push Melania coin and collapsed that. This is because they're run by crooks. This kind of thing, the inside job is very dangerous, plus the outside job is very dangerous. So I keep in mind all of this, but then there's the bigger things. And that's why I would never want to be CEO of this, because the day it gets hacked, I don't want to be thrown in jail. These are serious issues.
But that is why there needs to be an environment that ensures that such hacking does not take place, even when we begin such, including ourselves in this arena. We should ensure that at least we take the maximum steps to ensure the security of this environment.
Absolutely.
Ali, the finance minister also talks about the Pakistan's future in the digital asset space. He hopes that this council that has been now created will serve as an umbrella platform and will work collectively toward a comprehensive, responsible and forward-looking crypto regulatory framework that we have just been talking about. He says this is the beginning of a new digital chapter of our country. Of course, that I understand. What I want to understand is, how do you sequence the rollout in the short and the long term? How do you run the pilot programs? How do you ensure adherence to international obligations in a manner that satisfies the IMF, that satisfies FATF, so that we don't enter red zone in the coming months or years?
Well, I think the primary concern would be to not lose any tax revenue because of bringing crypto into the fore of currency, because there are issues related with its traceability and trackability. That is why crypto is crypto and why it is so popular, because it is essentially anonymous. There are ways to track criminal activity on it as well, and there are ways to tax it for revenues as well. But I think that would be the government's primary concern, and even the IMF's primary concern, that the government of Pakistan does not lose tax revenues as a direct consequence of this feature being brought into the economy. There are lots of things that the government of Pakistan can do, but right now I think simplicity is the way to move forward. The entrepreneurs that will engage with the crypto space will determine what kind of conflicts result as a result because of doing business in that space. And so I would say that I would claim that we don't know what will happen. And the government also, when it overly regulates a monetary aspect of the economy, then it has the power to continue to extract from it. And so a lot of people might be worried about how the government, what kind of role the government plays in this space, because if the environment is going to be uncertain like it is with other industries and other sectors, then what is the point of engaging in it? I think there is some potential in terms of raising finances through alternate means other than banks, and there are some instruments that are very exciting in that way. A few weeks ago I was talking to this lady who was running an art-based website, and she was actually converting her art, which was Pakistani regional traditional art, into NFTs, non-fungible tokens. So entrepreneurs are doing it. Artists are indulging in this space. Business people are indulging in this space, and they know what they want from it. What we should be concerned about is that at least for the most poorer segments of society, they do not get involved in any scams that are related to crypto, and that if any, generally we should not have any financial scams when it comes to crypto or for any other means of transacting as well. But and secondly, there should not be any market failure, and right now the only market failure that I can think of are theft and scams, which are quite densely situated in Pakistan. A lot of people who are involved in this industry, the scamming industry, are based out of Pakistan as well, running call centers and doing things of that nature. So Pakistan needs to crack down on those kinds of scam artists, and then the industry will define whatever its common problems are, and then the council can address them. Right now I think it's not very complicated. I'll tell you what, I don't think that the international space is well regulated as well. I think that there's a lot of speculation in the market as well, which means that whatever information the market is trying to process, it's taking a lot of energy and a lot of resources to do so. So that should not happen. That does not happen in conventional currency. So I think crypto still has a long way to go, and Pakistan should just get into the market and should not expect any miracle to happen as a result of it. But things will start to change.
All right. Usman, coming to one point that Ali had mentioned earlier in the show, and that was reservations by the FBR. Should this ecosystem be taxed? Should there be a modality to tax this cryptocurrency as we speak? Because a lot of people will, in the long run, talk about that. What's your take on that? Can it be taxed? If so, how should it be taxed?
Yes, absolutely. There are taxation policies around the world that serve as good models. So, as Ali Bhai mentioned, there is the Securities Exchange Commission, which looks at all crypto in general. There is the Commodities and Futures Trading, which is for Bitcoin and Ethereum. Because they're so large, they're basically commodities. And then the IRS, their Internal Revenue Service, also is in this business, and it has guidelines on how to pay for your tax on crypto. Now, there's two basic ways to do that. One is on the ownership, so you own it over time, so you pay a tax for owning it. The other is you trade it, and on each transaction, you're paying a tax. Either way, the idea is that if this is something that Pakistanis are doing, they should be Pakistan shouldn't be losing tax revenue revenue. I think Ali Bey makes a very important point in that sense. Because what would happen then, in order to evade taxes, companies, B2B as well as P2P, we may simply take payments in crypto and just get off the grid. That would be a wonderful thing because for these people, but would be terrible for the state overall. So just having our transactions in a shadow system, you know, our fundamental problem being informal economy anyways, this will be like a glorified digital cyberspace informal economy, which is a terrible idea. So we want to have this streamlined from the taxation purposes as well. But the other thing is like expenditure issues also. So the state spending money to acquire crypto is not something that's being talked about here, but that's what El Salvador did, and the IMF went for their throat because of that, because it says you can't solve your finances until you stop buying Bitcoin. But it turned out to be a good investment because it rose up. And so if the US backs off on the IMF, it tells it not to push on this crypto stuff because they're changing so much, then perhaps El Salvador and this part can, these types of countries can do much better.
All right.
There is there's spectrum of attitudes towards crypto across countries. And what we had historically was what I've called strategic ambiguity. We're just trying to figure things out, and everybody was okay with that. The FATF didn't come for us on this subject, but it can certainly come on this subject later because their guidelines are ridiculously stringent. There's something called the travel rule. So you own crypto here, you have to register it with your bank here, then you move to another country, you have to register with a bank there that you own that crypto. This is the travel rule. Nobody's going to buy this, and nobody wants to work like that. So there is this broad-based, sweeping international power structure that is imposed on countries, and we have to survive within that while keeping everything in place.
All right. That's a very interesting perspective. And you know, there are so many questions because this is a new avenue for Pakistan. And of course, the more questions people have, the more answers also they are going to have. And of course, with the 20 million active users in the digital space or digital asset market that Pakistan has, this is going to be also providing that avenue to open up for these 20 million plus users. But the question remains how they need to move about it, how they need to ensure that their digital space is also not eroded and continues to remain safe. Said that the code word needs to be safe. Thank you so very much to both of my guests, Dr. Usman Chohan and Syed Ali Ehsan, to have joined us. This is a wonderful conversation. Whenever I think of economy, you know, the first two people that I think of are the both of you, and I'm so glad both of you were here today to discuss this avenue, which myself I had so many questions about, and you've, I think, managed to answer a lot of this. Thank you very much to the both of you. We'll be back after a short break. Welcome back. Our second story today concerns the growing intolerance in India, whether it be related to Hindutva, whether it be related to the general situation, environment in the country, that is leading to more and more, you know, people not accepting other people for who they are, for what they represent, and what their values and traditions are. Now, to add to that is, of course, the freedom of speech that India, that calls itself the biggest democracy and a pluralistic country in the world, is also being impacted upon by this very growing intolerance. There are many examples in the entertainment industry that have come to mind. Lately, there's an Indian leading stand-up comedian, Kunal Kamra, who is again in the midst of controversy because, of course, he talks about and he interprets different, you know, statements by the politicians, and then this is not taken too well by the Indian politicians, especially when it comes to you know, right-wing organizations. Now, this has again stirred a controversy as to where India is going as far as intolerance is concerned. We've been joined by Maheen Shafeeq, who's a regional affairs expert, to discuss more on that. Intolerance, India, Shiv Sena, BJP, and so many other aspects that come and intertwine themselves around intolerance in India. How does this exemplify the rise of an extremist mindset in our not so friendly neighborhood country?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. We have seen that various evidence of rise of extremism and intolerance within India, especially that is targeting minorities and Muslim community. The recent comments exemplify that it's not just the minorities and Muslim communities, but now also various segments such as journalists, comedians now, social media influencers.
And Hindu comedians, they are not Muslim comedians.
Yes.
So even those are being targeted now.
Even those are being targeted now. And the government gives various justifications for these, but at the end of the day, these are all human rights violations that cannot be ignored by the larger community.
These cannot be ignored, but it seems as if the right-wing parties are ignoring it or letting their workers do whatever harm they want to or can do to all those people who generate a discussion as far as tolerance in India is concerned. Can this be overcome in some manner, or do you feel India is on a slope as far as tolerance is concerned in society?
I think this is a very important question that you've highlighted. We have repeatedly seen these incidents, such as demolitions of houses, commercial properties. At times there are incidents with mosques. Now that we are seeing this incident with the Aurangzeb tomb. But what is very concerning is that these activities, the rise of extremism and intolerance, is somewhat being supported by the state. The weak legislation, the weak criminal justice system within India is one of the reasons that this is being easily fanned and supported within the state. And this is the reason that the growing intolerance is very difficult to curtail. Because this is supported by states, community members who do not take part in these extremist activities or who want this intolerance to be ended between different communities within the societies, even they are helpless because of the state sponsorship within these acts.
Do you feel that religious intolerance or religious tensions influenced the growth of intolerance across different communities in India?
Yes, that's certainly true. Religious intolerance with the support of political polarization. We have seen the rise of, like you mentioned, the right wing, the Hindutva ideology, the RSS supporters, various their offshoots. These are the ones who are inculcating the rise of extremism and intolerance within India. And this is becoming very, very difficult to curtail. Various segments, this has been highlighted by the international community, the subject has come up in international media, journalists have discussed it, various influencers have also spoken about it, but these acts remain unaddressed. And we have seen that, like I mentioned already, government is trying to give various justifications for it, such as the act of demolitions, which is commonly being known as bulldozer politics. It's on the rise within India, and this is supported by the chief ministers of various states within India, such as the UP, where houses of Muslim communities are being demolished. And there are reports that over 7,000 people, 73,000 people have been become homeless because of this. And they give the argument that these the demolitions are on the encroachments, but this is actually not true. There is a report there. Some of the inherited lands there's a story of two brothers from Haryana. They have inherited this land, which includes vast commercial properties, housing properties, and this has been demolished just because the two parties do not agree on certain aspects.
So of course they use it for their own political gains, and then incorporate intolerance in such a manner that it doesn't, raise many eyebrows as far as the actions such as these is concerned. In what ways, in your point of view, has social media also amplified or mitigated this intolerance?
Social media is both a curse and a blessing. We have worked a lot on social media and how it is creating intolerance as well as strategies to mitigate it. Firstly, the aspect of algorithms and how they are supported. At the end of the day, we have to understand that social media sites are businesses. They are money generating machines. If you are consuming it for free, that means you are the product that is being sold. And who is this being sold to? For the advertisement, for content creation. And social media sites promote the content that is viral, that is being consumed by the society. At the end of the day, how do we curtail this? we have done a lot of research on this, and we have recommended that it is the responsibility of the social media sites, of the social media companies, and in these countries where they are hosted, to act upon this, to regulate this, because as countries, Pakistan or India or any country in the Middle East, they do not have enough power to control this content within their countries. At times, if a country requests the removal of certain content, it is not removed because it does not align with the policies of the social media company. Therefore, it is becoming more and more important that social media companies take up the responsibility of regulating such content, especially in communities such as India, where such content creates extreme violence within the society. This is an online activity, but it turns out to be violent mobs and activities like that, which actually inflict physical harm to the community.
All right, Maheen, also from online activity to the society in general. The caste-based system has been present in India since centuries. Now, do you feel this caste-based discrimination that has been rampant always and continues to be rampant in this day and age has also had a very important role to play as far as fostering intolerance is concerned?
You're most certainly right. As I discussed, there are various issues to this, the political polarization as well as the religious tensions. And with this religious tension comes the caste-based concerns. There was a caste census in 1931 where it was identified there are over 4,000 castes within India. We have commonly heard about 4, but there are several castes, and within castes there are also these aspects that need to be kept in mind. So India is a very diverse society, very diverse community that we are very well aware hosts different languages, cultures, identities, ethnicities. But the caste-based system is very interesting to explore because this is becoming one of the reasons where polarization is brewing within the community. There is currently no caste-based consensus or caste-based census within India. Recently, there has been one in Bihar, and Jharkhand is the one who will conduct this this year, the caste-based census. But the problem that remains is the majority of the populist parties, such as the BJP, evidently is not in favor of a caste-based census. This is because the 80% of the wealth that is within the hands of top castes, which are often considered as the forward caste or the Brahmins, and they do not intend to share their assets or their whatever valuables they have. And due to this reason, 80% of the people remain indifferent to all of these aspects that are happening.
So it means the continuity of this politics of racial discrimination has also added to intolerance in India. Also, is intolerance now generally everywhere in India, or are there certain regions where it is specifically at a very high rate compared to others?
We have seen from our research there are certain communities within India that are very tolerant, but majority of them are not. We have seen, as I discussed earlier, this is an activity that is supported by state. In UP, where the Ram temple was built on demolished Babri Masjid, we have seen the rise of intolerance in UP, which is a very concerning aspect, because the CM of UP, Yogi Adityanath, he supports this, and he is the one who is using this bulldozer politics and demolition politics to act out his anger against minorities and Muslims. And these minorities and Muslims are also reacting towards this, the suppression that is coming from the political parties. In the end, we discussed on your last shows as well that we saw that in a place where Ram temple was inaugurated with great show, this is where BJP failed to secure majority, and in the end, a Dalit won the election. So BJP failed.
So there are repercussions of certain decisions that the BJP-led government has also taken. The education system, has it been impacted? Do you feel that it has been addressed properly or improperly? Has the government in India failed to address issues of intolerance in its education system? And is it because of that the new generation also is a bit clueless as to how to deal with it?
You're definitely right. The new generation, the next gen, the Gen Z, these are the most critical assets of any country. And these are the one that needs to be trained on how to go about the future and what should be the strategy moving forward. We have seen that India is systematically going on about brainwashing the next generation of their society. We have seen several incidents where their textbooks have been altered to suit a Hindu nationalist, Hindutva ideology strategy. Evidences or stories of all Muslim related Mughal rulers or Nehruvian secularism, the idea of democracy, inclusivism, all of these aspects are being eradicated from textbooks. This is where the general children get their basic education. If all of these aspects are eliminated from their early childhood upbringing, this has major repercussions for upgrowing and when they are in power. If they are not educated, if they are not well about the situation, how will they act upon it to stop this incident? But we are seeing that majority of the youth are engaging with the world globally and they are witnessing all of the atrocities that are being committed in India and across the world, and they are acting upon it, and we hope that the next generation are the ones that make the change.
Well, that's up to this new generation, whether it will make the change or not, or whether it be influenced by the right-wing mindset that is so prevalent in India as we speak. But last question, Maheen, do you feel economic disparities that are very prevalent in India as well? Because the number of poor people who live on the street literally is humongous in India, and that is totally contrary to the shining India image that India portrays to the world. Now, these disparities, do you feel they also contribute to the rise of intolerant attitudes within Indian society?
You're evidently right. There are several cases, several reports, several journalistic investigations that highlight how Muslims, minorities have been excluded from the mainstream economic activities. The max that they can participate in economic activities are just street side sellers. They are not part of the official government structures. We saw that there is no Muslim MP in BJP, in Lok Sabha's BJP, and there are only 9 in Congresses. And this highlights how systematically, if Muslims are not on the highest level, they are also not in the middle or the lower level. The majority of them are in the informal economy, such as what we saw on the streets, people selling different vendors and all of these aspects. What is concerning is that these people cannot raise their voices. There is nobody to represent them. Even if the people who are there to represent them, they do not have a lot of power or influence over the major political party in India, that is BJP. Rather, it has systematically excluded these Muslims and minorities. We have seen what is happening in Manipur, what is happening in Kashmir. These people are not included. Rather, the seats that they had within Lok Sabha or within their local parliament, they are being minimized in order to diminish their voices.
We know so many different factors that are contributing to this rising intolerance, and it has seeped in every part of the society in India, whether it has been the entertainment industry, and there are so many examples. This example of the comedian is just one of the many examples that are prevalent. So many examples get shifted under the rug, so we don't get to even know what is happening. But the fact is, as you said, it's the responsibility of the new generation to make the necessary change, to change attitudes. But I don't know whether this right-wing mindset would ever allow tolerance to regain ground within the Indian society. That I think we will see within the next couple of years, whether that actually happens or not. Maheen, Shafeeq, thank you very much to have joined us. Kindly stay with us for the last 2 minutes while I end my show. Last story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the IMF-Pakistan relation. Now, the IMF has reached a staff-level deal with Pakistan for around $2 billion, and this includes two important factors. The first is, of course, the EFF facility under which Pakistan is going to be given its next tranche, but also a new arrangement under the Reliance and Sustainability Facility, which is known as RSF, under which Pakistan will also be given $1.3 billion. The IMF announced this on their website that they have reached a staff level agreement, and now pending the approval by the board, Pakistan will receive this money. They said, and I think I need to highlight this as a quote from the IMF. It says, over the past 18 months, Pakistan has made significant progress in restoring the macroeconomic stability and rebuilding confidence despite a challenging global environment. This is the IMF saying, the IMF, this is not a friend of Pakistan, but this is a regulatory body that sees the good and the bad and says things how they are. And if they are saying whatever they are saying, it means that Pakistan is moving indeed in the right direction. So 1 billion around under the 7 billion EFF program and the RSF facility of 1.3 billion US dollars is going to be part of this next tranche that Pakistan will be given by IMF after the board approves this. But things are moving in the right direction for Pakistan's economy. Things are moving in the right direction for Pakistan. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us here in Pakistan. Stay safe. Have a blessed end of Ramadan because there's just a few number of fasts that are left. And we'll see you inshallah tomorrow. Allah Hafiz.